Here's section 6.4, question number 1. We have Z in rectangular form and W in rectangular form. So let's go ahead and change those to polar form. I'm just going to start with figuring out what quadrant they're in. So a negative positive number would be quadrant 2 for Z. So then to find R, or magnitude Z, we would do our square root of negative 3 square root 3 over 2 squared plus 3 halves squared. So 3 times 3 is 9, and then square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. So that would be 27/4. I don't have Adrian correcting me if I'm wrong. So you guys are going to have to be on top of this with me. So let's see. 3 squared is 9, and that's fourths. So that gives me 36/4. That's a nice number, which is 6 halves, right? Or that simplifies to 9, which is 3. Either way, I didn't notice that before I just did the square roots. Okay, so magnitude 3. And then we need the angle. So inverse tangent of 3 halves divided by negative 3 square root 3 halves. So I'm not going to write the halves because they would just cancel. I guess the 3's kind of cancel too, right? So it would be negative 1 over square root of 3. So that is a negative pi 6 reference angle. However, we need it to be in quadrant 2. So that means it's 5 pi 6. So for polar form, Z would be 3 times cosine plus I sine of 5 pi over 6. Okay, let me reduce the size of all of this so that I can make room to find W. Okay, for W then, we would do magnitude W equals the square root of 3 square root 2 squared plus negative 3 square root 2 squared. I'll look at your question in just a second, Lauren. Okay, so that would be 9 times 2, so 18 plus 18. So that's 36, which is 6. So then for the angle, we do the inverse tangent. I forgot to graph it. It's a positive negative, so that's quadrant 4. Okay, so inverse tangent of negative 3 square root 2 divided by 3 square root 2 is the inverse tangent of negative 1, which would be a pi 4th reference angle, but in the 4th quadrant, so negative pi 4th. So that would give us W is 6 times cosine plus I sine of negative pi 4th. So there's our polar forms that we would go through and use for all of the questions 1 through 12.